Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock, which means it's time for another video. And it's 9 o'clock on a Saturday, which means it's actually time for an interview. Now, I've done hundreds of interviews on this channel. I am super excited about doing this interview right now. This is somebody that a lot of you will know, but you don't know that you know this person. This is somebody who's been very active on the Magic Cafe. You probably have read their posts. You've probably seen their reviews. They're very knowledgeable. They literally know everybody in the Magic community, but they're kind of in many ways the best kept secret in Magic because there's a very good chance you haven't heard of this person, but they are huge, both in terms of the Magic community. They've been running a convention in Mexico for the last 10 years, worked in Vegas. I can't wait to actually find out more about this person and actually bring this interview to you because I don't know that much about this person. And so it's going to be really cool for me finding out more as well. I am talking about Alejandro. How are you, Alex? Are you okay?
Hey, good. How are you, Craig?
Man, I'm super excited. Look, thank you so much for taking the time out. I know we've been trying to do this for a while. First of all, I got busy, then you got busy, then I got busy, then you got busy. But we've been trying to plan this, for the best part of 3 or 4 months. So I'm so glad that we've managed to get our schedules to mesh and we can do this now. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
And what I said in the introduction is true. A lot of people will know you from your posts on the Magic Cafe. You're very prolific on the Magic Cafe. And, I've got a love-hate relationship with the cafe. I love it. I hate it. I think there's some incredibly knowledgeable people on there. I do think sometimes it degenerates into fighting. But one thing that I've always noticed is every time you post, you're the voice of reason. You come at any argument with logic and knowledge. And you're one of the very few people I've ever seen on the cafe that's never got into an argument, never got into a dispute. You're just very level-headed. And anyone who's ever seen your postings, you can just tell from what you say and how much time and effort you put into the stuff that you write, how knowledgeable you are. And how freely you share that information. What's your username on the cafe, Alex? Just so everybody kind of knows.
BMWGuy.
That's the one. BMW.
Yeah.
Now,
so you wanna know a quick story about that?
Yeah, I was just going to say before we start the proper interview, how did we get BMWGuy?
So I'm from Texas, but I live in Mexico now, I had a BMW 1980 318 SI, 4-door, white with roof, the rooftop, standard. And ever since I had it, I decked it out, and it cost me $1,000 to buy it from a lady. And then I think that's when I started posting on the cafe, like 2000. Well, it's a long time ago, over 20 years ago, easy. And then that's why I came up with that name, because I was barely going to go to college. I remember I actually ended up going to Texas A&M in College Station near Houston, for those of you that don't know. And then that's how I came up with the name BMWGuy.
Good name. It's a good name. It really is. And it's stuck. And you, as I say, you've been posting for a long time. And we'll talk about the Magic Cafe, but I want to start at the very beginning. I don't want to jump to the Magic Cafe. I want to start at the very beginning because you've had a very interesting career. You've done an awful lot. It's fair to say that you know pretty much everybody in Magic. You are so well connected. You could pick up the phone and ring pretty much anybody and they would answer and go, "Hey Alex, how you doing?" And it takes a lot of time and effort to build up a reputation and a relationship like that with so many people. And I want to know how you got from getting into Magic to how you got to where you are right now. And it has to start at the very beginning. So my first question to you, Alex, is I want to know all about your origin story. When did you get into Magic? How did that happen? How old were you? Tell me all about that.
It was actually growing up in Alaska. So my dad was in the U.S. Army. He was a paratrooper. Did you see Band of Brothers?
Mm-hmm.
So one of those battalions, my dad was in there. And he actually went to the Gulf War when George Bush Sr. was president. And growing up there, we lived in a three-story house with an attic and a basement. And the guy that lived in the corner he showed me the first magic trick. He did dancing cane. He did the thumb tip, right? And he did the Jiffy coin trick from Adams from New York. Remember that?
Yeah. We're going back a bit now. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So he showed me those three effects. His name is, he's still around. I actually contacted him about a few years ago when we chatted. And remember that? I mean, I was young. I was probably like 7 years old. You know, like I was like in second or third grade when I met him, and he was already doing magic. He was a little bit older than me. His name is Sean LeMay. I think he lives in Washington now. But he's the one that showed me, and I got hooked. After he showed me that, I was like, wow. So back in the day, there was no internet. So I ended up ordering a catalog from Adams from New York. And I don't know if you remember, but you would go through and it would have a description of the effect with a picture in black and white. And that's it, and the price. And then where you send the money to, with a check or, mail order or whatever, right?
Yeah, I remember.
So I had to kind of guess. Basically, I kind of had to I kind of had to guess what's the right word for this? If the trick was worth it or not.
Yeah.
Now people have it easy. They can look at a trailer and they can say, I don't see myself doing that, or yes, But before, it was just a catalog, mail order, and then you'd have to send the money in, wait a couple weeks before you get the trick in, and then if the trick sucked, that's it.
Yeah, people who are into magic now that moan about trailers and stuff, they don't know how good they've got it compared to back in the day.
Yeah, so I did that, and then I started practicing. He started showing me some stuff. I was never good at the dancing cane because he was really good at it. I started watching David Copperfield specials, and then in 1990, well, before I moved back to the States, I actually started watching World's Greatest Magic. Remember that show?
I do remember that, yeah.
93, 94, 95, 96, 97, I believe. It was like 5 years. And the best 20 magicians every season. It was like Juan Tamariz, Guy Hollingworth, Bill Malone, et cetera, right? So I started learning from this guy. And then when I moved back to Texas, I was in junior high, and a guy showed me the Dan Harlan's cartoon, right? The first one.
The original.
And it sparked, because I had left magic for like a year or two because I was in Alaska, right? I come back, this guy shows me cartoon. I was like, where did you get that? And he goes, oh, there's a shop here, like in our city.
And how old were you? How old were you at this point?
13. No, 12.
Okay.
12. I was 12. And because I was in Alaska for 5 years. So came back, junior high, I think it was 6th grade. And then he showed me in the gymnasium. I remember he showed me cartoon, and I was like, wow. And I remembered magic, right? So he's like, yeah, you can go to his shop. It's in Edinburgh, Texas, blah, blah, blah. So my mom took me. And there's this older gentleman. You know who I'm talking about right now when I say his name, but he's an older gentleman, white hair, ponytail, George Robinson from Viking Manufacturing.
Okay, yeah.
He showed me. I mean, he had everything. He had everything from Okido boxes and coin tricks and card tricks and you name it. I mean, that's where he's still there. I mean, that's his shop, right?
Yeah.
Later, he ended up purchasing Collector's Workshop, but everything he does from that warehouse.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. So is that the moment you kind of got re-inspired to get back into magic and start taking it really seriously? Was that kind of the moment there?
Yeah. So like when I was like 12 going on 13, I started the first videos I bought from George. I still have them upstairs in VHS. It was Eugene Berger, Close Up Gourmet, Juan Tamariz, Lessons in Magic, Guy Hollingworth, the black and white video. What's it called? Not Routines. It was the first one. London Collection. London Collection. It was Dan Harlan, Impromptu Tricks or whatever. Daryl's. Encyclopedia of
Encyclopedia of Card Magic, yeah.
Card Magic. And it was what was the other one? It was Dan Harlan, Michael Lamar, Easy to Master Card Miracles.
Still one of the best DVD sets ever made.
Yeah, yeah. So I started learning from those videos, and then George kept telling me, "Hey, when you're older, you want to come work for me?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." You know, because later on I ended up working for him in two separate occasions, and he's the one that kind of instilled in me the nuggets that are in books, right? He says, hey, because George has a lot of books in the warehouse. So, when I used to work for him, like, he would get a new book in, and I'd grab it, and, I would get 20% off because I worked there. So, I get, I was like, how much is this? Oh, this is 60 bucks, but for you, it's 45. Okay, I'll buy it, and so I have a lot of books upstairs from my time at Viking.
How old were you when you started working at Viking?
How old was I when I was in Viking? I think so. First, I worked at the magic shop that he opened called Merlin's Magic.
Mm-hmm.
That was more commercial. That was more like, trying to demonstrate commercial tricks like, Svengali and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was actually older. It was actually after I left college. I couldn't find a job because I didn't have experience as an engineer. And I went to him and I said, hey, he's like, hey, you want to come work for me? I know you know all this stuff. He was making Chinese sticks, the haunted bottles, the what's that other effect that the any card to wallet, the Viking, and then polish all the brass stuff, right? And fill orders. And so I worked there probably when I was like 21. Okay. Yeah. I'm 43 now. So.
And when you were working with Viking, obviously you've come out of college, you're working with Viking full time. You talked about having an engineering degree. What was the plan? Was the plan to become a full-time pro? Or was the plan, did you want to go into Magic full time? Did you want to work for Magic full time? Or were you kind of just saying, hey, I like Magic, but it's more of a hobby for me, more of a semi-pro type thing. I'm going to kick my heels until I get the job that I've actually gone to college to do. Like, what were your, what were your aspirations in Magic at that point?
So I did want to do it full time, but in my mind, it was like, I would like to work first as an engineer of what I studied, right? And I could always have Magic as a backup, and I could always have Magic like as a, second income, right? Or extra income, like some people do, like half and half, right? Like,
yeah.
And after I worked for George, I found a job, and then it's way different than what I'm doing now, but it was good because I like what I do right now, and I also get to spend time doing Magic every day as well.
Well, yeah. I've talked about this on the channel. A lot of people that I speak to, their goal is to become full-time because they love Magic so much. But honestly, if you love Magic, going full-time is not necessarily the best thing to do. Because when you full-time, you have to start making sacrifices. You have to do performances and gigs and sometimes tricks that you didn't particularly want to do, just because it, artistically, it might not be the sort of Magic that you want to do, but realistically, in the environment in which you're performing, it's a necessity, And I see a lot of people that go full time that used to love Magic, and now they're just going through the motions, and it's just a job for them.
Yeah. No, I like where I'm at now because I work from home. It's just the way it's set up right now. I work from home. I travel a lot to the U.S. For work every now and then. Like during COVID, I was never here. I mean, it was just like 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks.
Wow.
And and I get to do Magic. I mean, because of what I do as for an engineer, I've got to experience Derek Delgadio's In and of Itself live twice. I got to see Helder Guimarães show Verso in New York City. I got to see Steve Cohen. I got to see Aussie Wind, Inner Circle. So I got to hang out with all these people in New York, because where I work is in New York. So like from like where the plant is located, it's near Buffalo. So it's like you just take a train down to New York City and you're there like in 3 hours, you know? So
that's great. That's awesome. So before we carry on, because I've got so many questions for you. Obviously we've got to the point where you've kind of left college, you've finished working at Viking, you now, you got yourself your engineering job. You're still performing, but you're performing part-time, you told me off camera that your life might have gone in a completely different direction, because when you were 18, you were given a very interesting job opportunity that you couldn't take. Can we talk about that very quickly? Would that be okay?
Yeah. So I was on vacation in Las Vegas with my mother. My dad couldn't go because he was working. He's a dentist. Like he was in the army, but he's always been, my career has always been a dentist. And then he studied like medicine. So he had a lot of patients, and he's like, you all two go. He gave us money. Me and my mom went on our own. I was 18 years old. I ended up watching a few shows back in the day. Joaquin Ayala Spellbound. I don't know if you heard about that back in the day at the Harrah's.
The name rings a bell, yeah.
Matt King was there still. So Matt King was, he's still in Vegas, and he's at Excalibur now, but he was at the Harrah's. So Caesar's Magical Empire. I went to Vegas with my mom when I was 18, and I got to hang out with people like Jeff McBride, Armando Lucero, Nathan Burton, all these people there. And when I was in Vegas, so I went to one of the magic shops that was there. I think it was a Houdini's, which later I got offered a job there, but that's a different story. And one of the guys there, we started talking, and I told him that I wanted to get into magic full time. This is back when I was 18, so I hadn't worked for George yet. And he said, hey, Rick Thomas was on the Strip. He was at the Tropicana. He had his show there. And he said, do you want to come work for Rick? He's like, I know, like, he's like, I'm part of the crew. He's like, I can get you in if you want. And I was like, yeah, but obviously I had to run it by my parents first, and they said no. They said, you need to go to college first and graduate and get a degree, and then you can do whatever you want. Right?
Yeah, parents are like that.
So yeah, I was surprised that I got offered a job with Rick Thomas, but I had to turn it down.
Oh man. Oh well, it all worked out in the end, right? It all worked out in the end. So my next question is, you've worked at Viking Manufacturing. You're 20 odd years old. You're in an industry that you really enjoy. You've got a great job. You really enjoy it, but you've still got magic as a passion, as a hobby. You're performing. How did we get from that point to where you are right now? How did you get to know everybody? And tell me some of these stories about you, because I know you've got a ton of stories, and also how you got to where you are on the cafe, so well respected with your posts and your reviews and everything else. Where did this come about? How did this all happen?
It took a lot of years. It wasn't something from the morning to the night, or night to the morning. Actually, so I started going to conventions early on. First convention I ever went to was in Vegas by myself. I didn't know anybody. World Magic Seminar 2003, I believe, at the Riviera, which no longer exists, in Vegas. I got to hang out there with people that are no longer they're no longer living. So Jay Marshall, who's the other one? You know what? I'll just show you. Here, give me a second.
Okay.
I have a wall in a room that I have all these pictures. Here, let me go upstairs and I'll show you.
Okay, I'm excited
maybe you'll recognize some of these people. Here we go. I'm going to turn the camera, and I'm going to speak loudly.
Okay.
So here you go. All right. So let me get closer. So I don't know if you can see this, but
Yeah.
up here we got a young Greg Wilson.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
We got Howie Schwartzman, Max Maven, young
Very
Max.
young looking Max Maven.
Who's that?
Eugene Berger. Wow.
Penn,
Look at that.
Miller, a young, really young Matt King,
Yeah.
Jay Marshall,
Yep.
Gary Darwin, Norm Nielsen, Joseph Gabriel,
Wow.
Dean Dill.
The legend himself.
I have a story about this picture. Tommy Wonder.
Well, I mean, you know, rest his soul. He was like one of the greatest magicians of all time.
Paul Daniels,
There he is, Mr. Daniels. Wow.
Roger Klaus,
Yeah, wow.
Lee Earl, and Larry Becker, Billy McComb,
Right.
a very young Jeff McBride,
Wow, very young.
Jason Byrne,
Oh, yeah.
Norm Nielsen, Brett Daniels, Bill Malone and Matt King,
Wow.
Tom Jones and Rachel Wild, Bill Malone again. We got Mike Close over here.
There he is.
We got Jamie Ian Swiss,
Yes,
Richard
indeed.
Richard Kaufman, Low Sender, Daryl's autograph, 9/30/97.
Wow.
Penn and Teller, Copperfield, Paulo Robbins, and the last one here is Sylvester the Jester. I know you can't really see it that well, but
Wow.
and up here we got Siegfried and Roy right there. In and of itself, over here. Oh yeah, you can see Megadeth and Iron Maiden and rock albums. And so this is like my magic room. I have all my magic stuff. I mean, I have more, but there's some here, and you can see some of the new stuff. For example, I was given this at to review. Where is it? Oh yeah. So, any thought of Card to Pocket from Illusionist?
Yeah.
And then we got Premiere, David Jonathan.
It's great. It's
Yeah.
great trick.
This new thing by Brett Berry, Black Hole.
Mm-hmm.
It was like it debuted at Magic Live. Bunch of books, Bannon, Destination Zero. And then over here, I know it's a mess, but over here we got Armando Lucero pad. We got Eugene Berger book, Fanique. I'll talk about him when we get to Mexican Magicians.
Yeah.
D-Land. There's just so much. Elementary, Phasma, Matt Baker, David Stone. The list goes on and on. I mean, and then they gave me this award too. Nice, right?
Wow. What's that award?
Says the magic is yours, and then there's like a world, and this is from the convention that we run. They gave it to me by surprise.
Oh, wow. We're definitely going to talk about that.
So yeah, so that's just a little bit of So you want to hear the Tommy Wonder story?
I definitely want to hear the Tommy Wonder story.
Okay, so I went to World Magic Seminar in 2003, I believe it was, or 2002, and he was there with Losander. He was sharing a booth. So I went up to him the first year, and I said, "Hey, I want to talk to you about some of your effects and blah blah blah." And then he said, "Yeah, come find me tomorrow." So I said, "Okay." So the next day, I come and find him, and he wasn't there. It was just Losander, right? So I missed the opportunity the first year. I ended up going to World Magic Seminar the second year, and he was there. And I said, "Hey, Tommy, last year I wanted to talk to you, but for some reason I couldn't find you anymore after the convention. I looked for him and everything, and he's like, what did you want to talk about?" I said, "Remember?" I said, "Some of your effects." He's like, "Oh yes, yes, I remember. He goes, what are you doing right now? This was at the Riviera, by the way, which is already torn down in Vegas. I go, well, nothing. I'm here in the convention in the dealer room. He goes, come have a bite with me. So we actually went downstairs, and I had lunch with Tommy Wonder, and I was there for over 2 hours talking to him.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's great.
Wow.
So
People would have paid a lot of money to be in that situation.
yeah, he was really nice guy, really knowledgeable. Like you said, one of the best magicians of our era.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
his books are amazing, books of wonder.
Yes, they really are. Wow, that's so cool. So you said that you started posting on the Magic Cafe
Oh yeah. I started.
around about this same time, right?
Yeah, I was in college, and I started posting stuff that I would buy. Right, I would purchase something new. I would kind of like take one for the team, and then I would, if it sucked, I would actually go on there and say, you know what, this is not for me. I'm sorry, maybe it'll work for somebody else. Somebody's trash is somebody else's treasure. Um, and then I started posting, and all of a sudden I get a message from somebody. Um, who was it? David? No, he's not around anymore. He used to have a magic shop back like in the northwest of the U.S. David something, and he's like, "Hey, I have a new trick coming out. I see your posts. You want to review it?" And I said, "Yeah." So he sent it to me. It was all right. I reviewed it. He was happy. And then this is when Peter Turner came into the scene, where I started researching mentalism because I wasn't a mentalist before. I was a magician, right? A lot of mentalists go through magic first, right?
Mhm.
So I like the VHS that I grew up with, right? Jeff McBride, all the ones that I mentioned. So I was doing. Oh, Dave, I forgot to mention David Roth. I was a coin magician at the beginning too. So and I got to meet David Roth and hang out with him as well. So um, I I started to research mentalism stuff, and I came across Peter. Peter was not known in the magic community when I reached out to him. He had his first PDF with Kenton Nepper. I think it was called Devious Realities or something along those lines. And I messaged him. He was a young Peter, right? And I said, "Hey," I said, "Look, I'm a college student. I don't have any money. I really want to buy your PDF. I think it was like 30 or 40 bucks." I said, if you want, send it to me and I'll put in a review on the Magic Cafe. Without question, he sent it to me. I read it. Um, I thought it wasn't bad and it wasn't good. The style of writing of Peter was very, because he used dual reality a lot, right? Back in the day. It's changed so much now, like since I've known him all these years. His writing style from his books, Bigger Fish 1, Bigger Fish 2, When in Rome, all the it got to a point where more people could perform the stuff because at the beginning it was only stuff for him, right? So I went ahead and reviewed it for him, and then I became good friends with him. I've known Peter since before he was Peter to the magic community. I got in the same way Michael Murray, right, which everybody loves and respects. Mind Effects, right? So Michael Murray, Fraser Parker, Luca Volpe, all these guys I became friends with online. I've never met Michael. I've never met Peter. Peter, I have, but I've never met Michael or Luca in person. It's all through video or through emails. Um, and then just little by little, people started sending me stuff like independent projects like, "Hey, do you want to review this? I see your post." Yeah. Hey, yeah. Yeah. And then it got so big to a point where I had magic companies sending me stuff like Penguin and Murphy's and Illusionist. And, it got to a point where I'll be honest, I was so busy, like I was busy, like doing stuff, like, with my work and magic and this and that, that sometimes I had over six projects that I had to review, and I was like, I need to find some time to do this, you know, because it was given to me for free. Now, not everything was free though. I don't mind paying for stuff. Um, John Allen, when he came up with his Paragon 3D, I actually paid for it. He gave me a little discount, but I paid for that, and he sent it to me, and I reviewed it. You know, so not everything was free. Like I said, I don't mind paying for stuff, and I can review it. And so yeah, so little by little, it started growing. I didn't know how much it had grown until two incidences happened to me these past for 3 years ago and last year. So 3 years ago, I'm in New York City with a friend, and we go see Dan White's show at the Nomad. And I'm there, and this lady comes up to me. She's like, "Hey, are you Alex?" I said, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh, Dan would like to talk to you after the show." I hadn't never met Dan, right? He's like, "Okay." And he's like, "He'd like you to have these deck of cards, Guardians, right?" So he gives me the cards. The show finishes. Me and Dan are talking afterwards. He's like, "Hey, thank you for coming to the show, blah, blah, blah." And then I was just kind of perplexed, like, what did he want to talk to me about? He's like, "Oh, by the way," he goes, "I read your post in the Magic Cafe." He goes, "You've saved me a lot of money, but you've also, told me, like, guided me what to buy or what not to buy. And thanks to you, I've kind of, known what to get, like for the show or for my personal use." I was like, "Oh, really?" It's like, "Okay." And then my friend was with me. He's like, "Yeah, bro." My friend Caesar from Houston. He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You're really popular on there on the cafe." And I was like, "Well, I didn't mean to be. It just kind of happened, right?" And then it all came I guess full circle last year during Magic Live. So I go see Copperfield's show on Saturday night before the convention starts. I meet him backstage, take a picture with him, and I only say but two or three things because it's quick. It's just like, "Hey, shake hands, picture, next," right? You know how that is.
Yeah.
So that was it. Next day, dealer room. Everybody's at the general sessions or focus sessions. I'm in the dealer room, and in walks Chris Kenner with Copperfield, and he comes straight towards me, David. He was leaving for Musha K that evening, I think, after the show. So that's why he was only there for that one day. So he comes and he says, "Hey." I go, "Hey, David." And he goes, "What's new?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Yeah, like, what's new, like, for the dealers?" And I was like, and I was like, well, and then I started remembering stuff that I had seen. "Oh, have you seen Michael Chatelan's melt card?" He's like, "No." And then he's like, "Okay, I'll have to check that out. What else?" And Chris was busy doing something else. And so I got to talk to Copperfield for like, 2 or 3 minutes before they, waddled out. And then I kind of just, I was kind of like, I was like, "Hey," I was like, "Why did you ask me?" He goes, "Oh, I've seen your posts on what do you call it? The green place." He's like, "I've seen your posts." And I go, "Oh, okay." And I go, "Okay, well, that makes sense." I said, "Okay." And then he left, and that was that.
That's amazing. That's amazing that you had that experience, and B, that Copperfield goes on the Magic Cafe. Like that's just crazy, right? That's just mad. You'd think that like he'd be too busy, but I suppose at the end of the day, just like everybody else in this industry, he loves magic. He's a hobbyist as well as being one of the biggest names in the world when it comes to magic, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So would you say that having the position that you have on the Magic Cafe has opened doors for you when it comes to meeting these big name magicians, having your posting history and reviewing all of the products?
Yes, it's helped, but not really. I mean, it depends on the person. I mean, I could be a freaking butthole to and so it really depends on the person's demeanor, the way they carry themselves, the way they are with other magicians, how well they're respected in the community. So everything else is probably like 80-90% of the puzzle, and the other 10-20% is the reviews. So that's not really, I would say more because of my knowledge as a magician of all these years studying books. And so I remember back in the day when people would say, hey, who knows about this, ask Alex, because it's like if he doesn't know, he'll figure it out, because I read a lot of books and I know a lot of magicians and I know a lot of stuff that's been released for years and years, like in the past, and who's done it and who performed it first, who did it, who perfected it, or who made a variation of that trick or whatever, you know what I mean? So they would always ask me, and I was always willing to help. And so I think that's how I also became here where I live. I'm like, we don't really have a magic club anymore, but I was like the president at one point. But now it's like every time we hang out, it's like I'm the magician's magician, because they're like, what are you going to fool me with now? They're always like looking for me to fool them with stuff. So yeah.
That's amazing. And I want to ask you about that. But before I do, I've got one other question.
Sure.
Do you have any advice for how to actually approach the Magic Cafe and not get into arguments? Because it is a great resource and there's so many valuable posts. It's probably one of the first places you're going to hear about anything new, but it's very easy to degenerate into arguments. And I'm talking from personal experience. I've probably been involved in more cafe arguments than anybody on the planet Earth. So for anybody that's like me, that enjoys the cafe but gets frustrated with, is there any advice? Because you've never got into an argument, as far as I can tell, and you've always come across as very level-headed and very knowledgeable, as I said right at the very beginning. Is there any advice you can give to navigating the Magic Cafe and making it work for you?
Yeah, don't let your feelings get in the way of the magic. Basically, I mean, you got to separate your feelings and your emotions from what's actually happening. There's a lot of people on the cafe that are very toxic, and all they want to do is just bash people. I mean, it's happened to me, and I was this close to losing it, and I kind of sat back, relaxed, and this is going back to Christian Grace's Enigma when that was about to come out. Since I'm the one that had the most information, and Christian, he wasn't on the cafe, so I wasn't a spokesperson, but I kind of like was, because I've had the app since the beginning. I know Christian since I was one of the first people he ever shared it with. I was already performing it way before everybody else, so people started bashing me on the cafe, like two or three. It was only two or three guys. Yeah, so I was this close to losing it, and for these three guys that were saying some stuff on the cafe, and then I talked to a few people like Peter Turner, Michael Murray, and then I kind of just stopped back and said, you know what, I'm not gonna let my emotions run this. So I just responded positively, and the rest is history. And plus, I just thought to myself, I'll let the trick when it comes out speak to for itself. I know there's like anything in magic. There's people that are gonna love it. There's people that are gonna hate it, and there's people that are gonna be like, well, I only use it on special occasions. It's all good.
Well, talking about Enigma, I mean, I've just interviewed Christian on this channel, and he performed it for me over Zoom, and I saw it very early on in the process, because I've known Christian for a long time. There's a lot of buzz about Enigma, a hell of a lot of buzz, and you were one of the very first people to start using it.
Yes.
This video is going to come out when people are still trying to decide whether to buy it or not.
Right.
I know this isn't an official review, doing an interview on the channel, but is there anything you can say about Enigma and based on your experience? Because outside of Christian, there's probably nobody who's performed it as many times as you have, because you've had it for so long. So
I even have performance videos I sent to Christian. He didn't end up using any for the trailer, but I did send him one that I thought was good. The guy thought of Pencil, and then we did it live, but it was in Spanish, because for those of you that don't know, Enigma right now is currently in English, and it's going to come next month in October sometime in Italian, French, German, Mexican Spanish, Spanish from Spain, and Spanish from Argentina. And at least those are the ones that I can think of. I don't know if there's Portuguese or not. I have to check, but you're covered, most languages. So yeah, so I started. So Christian, he wanted to perform it for me first. He's like, I want you to experience what people. He's like, I don't want to tell you the method, and then you're gonna be like, okay, well. So he kind of did it on me, but over text one day, last year, like in August, so over a year ago. And I thought of lighter, and he nailed it. And even though it was over text, not over video chat like this, I was still blown away. I was like, what? How the heck did you know that? Because he didn't ask me anything. Like he didn't say, give me the letter or tell me this or tell me that. It seemed so fair, right? So then he explained it. Then he sent me the app like in September. So yeah, like about a year ago. And then he said, start playing with it. So I did. I started performing it every chance I got with my neighbors and this and these people and that and blah, blah, blah. I even showed some magicians. I have footage of one guy. It's on my YouTube, reacting. He's like, Christian, I don't know how you came up with this. You're a witch. He's like, Alex just performed it on me. I thought of lipstick. I didn't say a word. I want to buy it now. Take my money, stuff like that. So yeah. But yeah, I think my advice for people is if you're not sure, because I know it's like $180, $200, something like that. You can contact me if you need help. Or you can contact Christian. He's a really nice guy. And we'll help you make the best decision, whether it's right for you or not, if you want to think about performing it. There's nothing better than getting help from people that have it or that know about it, that can actually guide you and say, yeah, you know what, I don't think that's for me, or it is. So yeah.
I totally agree, 100%. I've just started playing around with it. I got it a couple of days ago, and the amount of tutorials on there is insane. It's just like there's so much information on there. Okay, so you're now in Mexico.
Yes.
So I have two questions. Yeah, go on.
I have dual citizenship, so I'm Mexican and I'm also U.S.
And obviously you're traveling back and forth to the US an awful lot with your job as well. So I suppose two questions. How did you find yourself in Mexico from Texas?
Yeah.
And then what's the magic scene like in Texas, in Mexico?
Okay,
and
so
I know that you know a lot of Mexican magicians, and you alluded earlier on to a Mexican convention. I'd like to talk about that as well. But if we start off by, how did you get there? And I've never been to Mexico. I don't know what the magic scene in Mexico is like. I'd love to find out more.
So I was living in Texas, and I live now in Monterrey, which is about 6 million population people. So if you've ever been to Houston, Texas, it's about Houston size.
Okay.
We're the third largest city in Mexico. So Mexico City is number one. They have about 24 million people. Guadalajara is number two. They have about 8 or 9 million people. And we're number three. We have six or seven. So I came over here because I had been here before and I liked it. There's a football scene, not football, soccer. It's big here. There's two teams, Monterrey and the Tigers. There's a lot of concerts here that people, Mexico City has the best concerts. Everybody goes there, everybody and their mother. But now Monterrey's starting to get a lot more rock concerts and pop and oldies and, just so I didn't have this in McAllen where I lived, right? So that was one of the reasons. Then I didn't know any Mexican magicians when I moved here, but I did watch a show on TV called Entre Calles, Between Streets. It was called in English. And there's a magician by the name of David Affieri. He was actually on that show. It was a street magic show, kind of like Blaine in a way, where he'd go to parties and do tricks. And and it was like 5 or 10 minute spots back in the day. So I actually met up with him, and together we were on TV for 3 years. And I was on. So we had a magic special that was filmed. We'd go to parties. We'd go here. We'd go there. We'd film. I'd film all these new tricks that I was learning at the time, or old ones, right? And it was half an hour slots. So basically, it would come out Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday at 10 p.m. when everybody's home watching TV, for half an hour. So yeah, I did that for 3 years, and
Wow.
and I have him to thank, because of him I met a lot of other magicians, and then we were actually going to make a convention back in 2010, which we were going to have John Bourne, Denny Garcia, and Wayne Houchin back in the day. For some reason, that didn't get made, and then a year later, I actually did the first convention, which I'll talk about that in a little bit. And first, I want to talk about, do you know any Mexican magicians off the top of your head?
Not really. It's not a country that's very, a lot of people talk about, oh, Spain has some amazing magicians, France has amazing magicians, England, Australia. Every single country has a magician that I could probably name. Mexico, I'm more likely to be able to name wrestlers than the magicians.
So
I don't know the scene at all.
So I think one of the most famous magicians from Mexico, there's two actually. There's an older person, and then, well, both were older, but they're passed away now. Number one was Chen Kai. He actually knew David Copperfield. He was from Mexico City. He was actually a dove worker. Like, I don't know his full story. Maybe magicians from Mexico City can correct me if I say anything wrong, but a lot of people knew Chen Kai around the world. Like, he was for his inventions for doves, dove magic. And then there's I don't know if he was older than Chen Kai or not. He just passed away recently, a couple years ago when COVID hit. Baltasar Fuentes. Have you ever heard of him?
No, I haven't. No.
He was really good friends with Bill Malone and Alan Ackerman and all those guys. He was actually from Mexico originally, but then he moved to Texas. No, yeah, El Paso. One of my friends knows his story because he was actually his mentor. So I'm going to move on to the newer generation. By what I mean by newer is like 50 and above, age-wise, because those are older generation. This is just off the top of my head. Chen Kai, Baltasar Fuentes, and then the newer generation. There's three. Well, I don't know if they're all 50. Maybe some are 46, 47. I don't want to butcher anybody's age, but there's three of them that I can just think of off the top of my head. There's J.C. Rodarte. You've heard of his name before, an illusionist. Yes. Clone. Yeah. Remember Clone?
Yes.
So he actually competed in FISM, and he got in the invention award because of that, because of Clone.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Juan Carlos Rodarte, that's his name. Then there's Gosner. He's actually from Guadalajara, but he lives in Chicago now, and he's part of the Chicago Magic Lounge up in Chicago.
Okay, wow.
He's a headliner there. And then there's Fanique. Have you heard of Fanique?
The name definitely rings a bell, yes.
I don't know if it was you or David Penn or both that you reviewed his book, The Code. You gave it 100%.
Yeah, that was both of us. Yeah.
Wizard product review. Yeah. So he studied actually with Michael Skinner, Baltasar Fuentes, which I named earlier, and Larry Jennings for many years. Yeah.
Wow.
He's currently touring the U.S.
Wow, that's amazing.
So those are the famous magicians that I can think of from Mexico right now. Just off the top of my head.
I mean, so is the scene where you are, like, are there a lot of magicians? You talked about a magic club earlier on, and do you have regular meetups? Is there a lot of magicians?
Yeah, there's not really a club per se. We hang out, we drink and barbecue and show each other magic and stuff. But I have a convention. This is my 10th year.
I want to know all about that, because running a convention is hard. It's hard work. It's a labor of love. You know, it's
So,
not a thing that you do to make a lot of money. It's a labor of love. So I want to hear all about this convention.
so I started in 2011 by myself. And the first people that I hired was Jimmy Fingers
Oh,
with the
yeah.
Magellan Levitation and
Yeah.
Ben Seidman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then 2012, Gosner, which I mentioned earlier, and Paul Vigil, right?
Great.
Then 2013, two of my friends got involved. A guy named Jorge Betancourt and his father, Jorge Betancourt Sr. Um, now the convention is called Enigma now, believe it or not. That's uh, similar to Christians. All right. Um, it's been called that since 2013. We hired Marcus Eddy, Eric Jones, and Rich Ferguson.
Wow.
Then 2014, it was Bizarro, John Bourne, and Francis Menotti. Then in 2016, we had Michael Lamar, Rob Zabrecki, and Daniel Garcia.
Wow.
Then 17, Ossie Wind, Paul Gertner, Peter Turner, Ryan Plunkett, and we were gonna have Daryl, but he passed away. That I talked to him like 2 days before he passed. So yeah, so so Paul Gertner took Daryl's place in that convention. And then 2018, Joshua J, Andy Gladwin, Benjamin Earl. 2019, David Stone, Silly Billy, Sean Farquhar. 2020, we didn't do one because of COVID, or 21, but 22 last year we had Armando Lucero, we had Michael Kaminskas, and we had Armando, Michael, Dan Harlan.
Wow.
And this year we have Chris Korn, Ruby Ferez from Spain, and we have Daniel Garcia is coming back again.
Wow. What a lineup.
We already have booked the stuff from next year too.
Who's coming next year?
Well, I don't know if I can say yet, but they were both at. We talked about one of the. Okay, I'll say one. Christian Grace is coming next year.
Oh, wicked.
And you'll probably know the answer to this, but he was the closing show at Magic Live for the Close-Up Convention this year. He's coming too, with Christian.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So Lloyd actually told me back in the day when I was talking to Lloyd, he's like, maybe one day me and Craig will go over there. I was like, yeah, why not?
Hey, we'd be honored. 100%. 100%. Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. So, how many is it, like a 1-day convention, 2-day convention, 3-day convention?
It's a 3-day convention. It starts on Friday all day, and then at night we actually do something that I don't think any other convention does. We have a party bus, like a dragon. It's called the Dragon Bus.
Wow.
And we actually go pick up people from the airport. We've done it before. On the Dragon Bus, and you're coming back with a few drinks or whatever. And then that night, we actually have a big party with barbecue and live music and magic and drinks. And just ask anybody that's come, Michael Lamar, Dan Harlan, anybody. Yeah, they'll tell you.
Wow. That's great. That's what it's all about. Magic is meant to be fun, and sometimes it gets very serious. And we've talked about rivalries on the cafe, but I think the most important thing about magic is it should be fun. It sounds like this convention is just, all about celebrating the fun about magic, right?
Yeah. Then the Saturday and Sunday all day, we have master classes for an extra fee. And actually, it's not that expensive. Like if I were to translate the money to dollars, we're only charging about $150 the entrance.
That's insanely cheap.
It's cheap. Yeah. And it's a smaller convention, so we typically have about 80 people, 100 people. So the most we've ever had is like maybe 140. So I see it like, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Tricks Convention in North Carolina.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Okay, so I see Tricks. We're like a smaller version of Tricks because I see the lineup that Scott Robinson has, and I said, you know what? I've had most of these guys at Enigma. right? And it's like, this is cool. I was like, obviously they get more people because it's the US, and you know, but yeah, we're like a mini version of the Tricks convention, which I like to go one day because I've been to World Magic Seminar, I've been to Magi Fest with Joshua J. I've been to Magic Live like 3 times already. So I'd like to try something new. Maybe I'll
Have
go
you
to
ever
Tricks next year.
have you ever been to Blackpool? Oh, you should come to Blackpool. Blackpool's insane.
I want to go because of the dealers and the Ruskin.
Everybody wants to come because of the Ruskin. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I think you'd have a good time. Well, if you ever make it over to Blackpool, let me know, because that would be
I will.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you when you run your convention, do you find it hard to obviously you're going to have a big percentage of people that are going to be coming back every single year. Do you find it hard to top the previous year? Because it gets to a point, right, where it's like, right, okay, this is ridiculous. How am I going to top this? Every year you got to kind of present something new. And I've spoken to convention organizers in the past, and they've said that's their biggest thing that they find difficult, making the convention not just as good as the previous year, but elevating and making it better.
Yeah, it's a hard, but at the same time, I think we've always delivered, to be honest. I think we've always delivered, and we're always making adjustments to, sometimes things don't work. We were going to have Mario Lopez come this year, but we had a scheduling conflict. So he called up Ruby. He was at Magic Live, Ruby Perez.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, I'll take his place. So Ruby's coming in. Ruby's fresh, new coin magician, Chris Korn is great. And Danny Garcia. Danny. So
Dan is one of the best, let's be honest. He's amazing. Wow. I mean, you mentioned earlier on that you're 43, right? I mean, you've accomplished an awful lot, considering like you're not full-time and you have no intention and you don't want to be full-time. What you've achieved within this industry, both online with your profile on the cafe, the people that you know, and everything that you've done. I mean, you've done so much. It's incredible, really. Have you? I know that Have you ever considered like releasing magic yourself as a reviewer that's reviewed so many items, and as somebody who's so knowledgeable and has so many books and DVDs and products and absolutely everything? Have you ever thought, you know what? I could do this. I could do a lecture. I could put some lecture notes together. I could put out a product. Is that something that you've ever?
I've already done it before. In Mexico.
Know.
Yeah. I was hired to do a convention in Mexico City. Oh, I forgot to mention Magodino. So he used to have a big convention in Mexico City. And I got hired to do a lecture there. I did some lecture notes, sold out completely. Because little by little, I've noticed here in Mexico, people are starting to getting more into mentalism. So they turned to me because I've been doing it for so long. It's like, hey, where do I start, right? And then one other thing I'd like to talk about because of that is the preconceived notion that card magic and mentalism is bad. It's not. I'd love
to talk about this.
I do card magic from, let's say Paul Gordon, Ben Earl, Aussie Wind, just all these card guys, Alan Ackerman, right? I do what you call pure card magic, right? From these people. But, my favorite type of magic is mental card magic, similar to like Stuart James and, those Eddie Joseph, older, that some people won't know what I'm talking about, but if you read up, you'll know who I'm talking about. And these kind of miracles, they can elevate your card magic just, because nowadays people don't read. So it's like you can take an old idea like Eddie Joseph's, or like Stuart James, and you can present it to one of the magicians. I've done it before, like to local magicians here and even in the US. It's like, hey, let me show you something. And then I put my spin on it, and then they're just so baffled and fooled. They're like, "What? Like, where did you come up with that?" And I said, "Well, it's not mine, but this part's mine, you know." So yeah, talking about releasing stuff, I've done it before. I actually released a trick. It was a PDF back in the day, 2010. I was trying to work another solution to Bob Cassidy's the wallet trick, Chronolog.
Yes.
But I ended up in a different direction, and I ended up releasing a trick called Mental Communicator. So what is Mental Communicator? It's hard for me to do it online because you need to be in person. And then I came up with Mental Communicator 2 and Imathination. And if anybody's interested in those, I'm not selling it anymore, but if you really want to, I can look it up and I'll send it to you for free.
Oh, wow. That's a great
Yeah.
offer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is Mental Communicator? Mental Communicator basically is you have the person think of a number from 1 through 100. They could either write it down somewhere. You have to peek it somehow,
Yeah.
right? The second version uses cards. So, and I can teach you this if anybody reaches out to me. Once you know the number, so the effect is, I want you to take the number that you're thinking of and pick either the lower or the higher, your choice. They do.
Yeah.
And then I say, okay, now I want you to think of a letter of the alphabet that starts with that number. So for example, if you were thinking of the number 5, it would be E, right? A, B, C, D, E. So they do it. And then I say, now think of a country that starts with this letter, or think of an animal or whatever. And then I go and I tell them the animal, right? Or the country or whatever. And then I stop, time misdirection. Before I leave for the night, I say, oh, by the way, do you remember the number you were thinking of? Yeah. Imagine there's a mirror between you and me right here. I want you to think of your number and reflect it to me on this side. 1, 2, 3. 56. And you'd say, no. No, it wasn't 56? No. What was it? 65. Oh, wait. I'm getting the reflection of your number on this side, so I'm looking at it backwards. So I'm looking at 65, and it just.
Oh, that's great.
So that's Mental Communicator.
Oh, that's awesome. And if people wanted to reach out to find out more about that, they could.
Yeah,
what's
they
the
can.
best email address?
Facebook.
Or the best way to contact you?
Yeah, Facebook, Alejandro Hinojosa Cantu. I actually have a picture with Motley Crue, so it's easy to find me.
Nice.
Or Magic Cafe, BMWGuy.
Private message on there, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So yeah, so they can find me, and they can reach out in case they have any questions about Enigma. They have any questions about the convention. They have any questions about really anything that I've talked about today. And also Mental Communicator and 1, 2, and Imagination.
Well, this has been a great interview, and I always knew it would be. I've got one final question for you.
Sure.
Which is, do you have any goals that you want to hit within this industry? Because you've done so much and you're so well connected, as I say, you know, you've just been, the people that you've been chatting to, oh, I know this person, I know this person. It's like, wow, like I'm fairly well connected and I don't know half the people that you do. Like, is there anything within the magic community in the next sort of 5 or 10 years that you go, you know what, I've done really well, I've done this and this and this, and I'm in a really great place and I'm really happy, and I've done this convention of this and this and this, but I'd like to do that? Is there a goal that you want to hit, or are you just happy with where you are and what you're doing?
I'm happy, but I think I'm gonna start writing my own show.
Okay.
To present here in Mexico. I've taken a bunch of shows that I've seen, like Derek Delgadio's and Helder's, and shows from conventions, and I say, you know what? I think I want to do a mixture between all these shows. It's going to be mentalism, but I don't want it to be boring. I don't want it to be just straight mentalism, like, oh, think of a number. Oh, yeah, it's 5. Hey, think of a letter, or think of a country. Oh, Afghanistan. I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be interactive, and at the same time, I want to tell a story about my life. Kind of like what we're doing here, where Derek, I don't know if you saw it, but Derek actually got everybody hooked with everything he was saying about his life, right? So that's what I kind of wanted it to be like autobiographical, but at the same time, show effects within the show. You know, that's what I'm
Wow.
gonna do next. Yeah.
That sounds great. That sounds amazing. And then that would be something that you would perform in your area. But I mean, it's something that would probably work at conventions and so on and so forth as well.
Correct.
That's
Yeah, yeah,
amazing. That's amazing. That's fantastic. Well, when that show comes together, you got to come back on and tell us all about it, because that sounds super exciting. But Alex, this has been an amazing interview. I seriously want to say thank you so much. And I want everyone to do me a favor. First of all, leave a comment down below. Let everyone know what you thought. Second of all, if you find yourself on the cafe and you see a BMW guy, drop a comment and say hi. But also, like Alex said, reach out to him about anything. You are, and everyone I've spoken to, Lloyd, Christian, everyone says the same thing. You're one of the nicest people in magic. You're helpful. You'll help everybody and anybody. There's a lot of new people that watch this channel. There's a lot of new people that are getting into magic all the time that find Magic TV. It's always nice to have somebody knowledgeable that they can reach out to. So, reach out to Alex, because he's super nice, super knowledgeable, and he's always there to help you. And that's, magic needs more people like you in it. It does. It needs more people like you, man. And I thank you so much for coming on the channel.
Yeah, no problem. It was a pleasure. And thank you.
You're more than welcome. You're welcome. No, welcome. It was an incredible interview. Guys, like I say, leave a comment down below. And on behalf of Alex, I'll see you again soon on another video. But my name's Craig. This was Alejandro, and this is Magic TV. We'll see you again. Take care. Bye, everyone.